It's a great day. My name is Che Brown, the Happy Entrepreneur, and welcome, by the way, to the Happy Entrepreneur Show, the #1 business development and revenue-focused late-night show in the country where we are on a mission. And our mission really is to empower, our mission is to inspire, and our mission really is to provide you, that's right, you, the hard-working entrepreneur, with all of the resources that are necessary to execute that big vision you have for the people you were called to serve. On this episode, we have the one and only Ricky Brown. Yes, he's in the building, and he'll be talking about, well, at the end of the day, how to overcome any hazards that's in the way, but more importantly, how you feel you can have success and really live the life that you truly deserve. What's going on, Ricky? How are you doing?
Doing great, Shay. Thanks for having me. Excited to have a meaningful conversation with you and help some folks.
Well, thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show. We appreciate it. Thank you to viewers for tuning in, because without you, well, we don't have a show, by the way. So thanks for allowing us to stream in your home during these very challenging, I'll say, and difficult times we're living in now. So, Ricky, before we get started, we'll get into your background in a minute and your bio, and people see how famous you are, and they're probably already Googling you if they haven't already read it. But I'm curious, I know we're talking about this whole thing about success, but success means different things to different people. When you think of success, what does it mean to you in the context we'll be talking about, and what does it even feel like these days?
Yeah, Shay, that's a great question. I would probably be accused of oversimplifying this, but for me personally, how I define success is, am I using my dominant gift? Am I using it to the greatest capacity that it has? And is it providing for me? Okay? So am I using my dominant gift? Am I using my dominant gift to its greatest capacity? And is that gift providing for me? I would say if a person is doing what they were created to do, and they're fortunate enough to do it on a level high enough that it pays their bills and even creates a path of wealth, that sounds like success to me.
I love it. Now, we'll get into something in a moment, but I'm curious, why are people today struggling? Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a loaded question. We're not going to ask them to try to save the world on this one call, but you talked about success. It seems to me it should be easy peasy breezy. There shouldn't be any challenges getting there, right? They can go to AI and they'll lay out a whole plan for them. They can go to TikTok or Instagram or Facebook and get motivated on any given day. Yet, folks are still struggling to do exactly what you said. What are a couple of reasons why, and what's holding people back these days, man?
Well, the worst thing to experience is when you achieve success, you climb all the way to the top of the ladder and then fall back down. That is not what anyone wants to experience. So, Shay, I was a part of a leadership cohort, and this leadership cohort was a self-awareness journey. Okay, myself and 6 other leaders. And one of the things that they did for us is they had as our guest instructors people who experienced great success, but then also had a great fall. And I thought that that was genius, because they would literally walk into the room and say, I destroyed my ministry, my marriage, my company, and I want to teach you how I did it. And so everything in life is designed to teach us how to succeed, how to 10x, and how to be successful. But maybe we need to listen to people who have failed, because they have twice as much to say. You can learn a lot from someone who's gone to the top, but you can learn twice as much from someone who's gone to the top and then fallen back down. And here is what I saw. When those leaders would talk and tell us their story, I realized that it doesn't matter how educated you are. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It doesn't matter how gifted you are. If the leader lacks self-awareness and has a hazardous attitude, there is a crash waiting for you in your future. And so this self-awareness journey was where I began to put the stories together to write the book and go from there. So if a person has a hazardous attitude and they lack self-awareness, success will be short-lived.
There's some folks that are listening. Later, we're going to get into his background. I promise you, he'll tell you his story and all that stuff. But you heard him use the word hazardous attitudes. And someone might be wondering, what in the LL Cool J is this guy talking about, Shay? Because just so you know, the audience, we have two type of folks. We have some individuals on here are dualpreneurs. They work a full-time job, they lead an organization, or they're in charge of projects and so forth, and they want to know about this hazardous attitude so they can deal with that. Then we have another group of folks who are like, wait a minute, Shay, I'm an entrepreneur. I mean, we're always fluent. I'm dealing with the same situation. So can you have them slow down for a moment and say, what is a hazardous attitude? and how do you come up with that particular term?
Yeah. So, Shay, I am a former business jet pilot and a flight instructor. The FAA actually requires us to know and understand 5 specific hazardous attitudes before we can get our license, because as they have studied aircraft accidents, they found that one or more of the 5 hazardous attitudes are responsible for the majority of plane crashes. That's right, attitudes crash airplanes. So, the 5 hazardous attitudes are anti-authority, which is the attitude that says, you can't tell me what to do. Then there's invulnerability, which says consequences happen, but they'll never happen to me. Then there's macho. This is the overinflated sense of self-ability that causes people to take unnecessary risks. Then there's impulsivity. This is the person that always acts before they think. Then finally, resignation. This is the hazardous attitude that causes us to prematurely end what would have otherwise been successful. So, if an attitude can crash an airplane, it's only logical that an attitude can crash a company, a career, or a business, or relationship. So, I wrote 5 fables illustrating each of the 5 hazardous attitudes so that we can learn a costly lesson from the characters without having to pay for that hard lesson ourselves, because pilots aren't the only people who sometimes crash.
Man, thanks for all that you're doing. He's also served, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, it's probably a good segue before we get back into these 5 hazards. And I want to see how that applies to folks that are in organizations or in government or private sector or nonprofits. I asked them how it applies to you and how you can use that with a team. And then we won't leave the entrepreneurs out. I think it applies the same way. But before we do that, can we slow down for a moment? You tell them a little bit about your background. Tell them, the question, who are you? What's the backstory to this person that's talking to them right now?
Yeah, so, I've been in leadership positions for more than 20 years, mostly in ministry context. I'm an ordained pastor. This year, I decided to take my speaking and writing full time. But I've spoken all over the world in Chile, Paraguay, Bolivia, Peru, Honduras, Jordan, Turkey, Dominican Republic, and Ghana. And so that gives me just a well-informed worldview, and I love people. I love connecting and communicating with people. I'm married. I have a beautiful wife and a beautiful daughter, and so I am a leadership speaker. So I help leaders master self-awareness so they can achieve success that actually lasts, because pilots aren't the only people who sometimes crash.
I love it, by the way. And what do you enjoy most about what you're doing now? You talked about being in ministry. We love that. We talked about you being an airline pilot. You was also served. So thank you for serving our country, by the way. Take a moment and what do you enjoy most about what you're doing? And then we'll do a little deep dive on how leaders can apply exactly what you talk about.
Yeah. What I enjoy most is, these aren't my words. These are a guy named Manny Scott. He says, you want to be able to summon words and send them into battle. I think language and rhetoric is probably one of the most powerful tools that God has given us. And so I'm a communicator. I love to communicate. I love to speak, but not just speaking to speak, but doing so in a way that harnesses the power of story to compel change. There's nothing like it on the planet.
Let's talk to 2 types of individuals we can. First, let's just talk to the leaders out there. I know some of y'all, all y'all think y'all probably in this category, but let's talk to the leaders who are seasoned. They've been doing this, 4+ years. They may be responsible for a budget, responsible for an organization, responsible for developing other leaders underneath them. And they might be thinking, whoa, if I had an opportunity for Ricky to share 1 or 2 ideas, probably from the book, that they could use for their organization. So they got to train those folks to help them kind of push it down. What would you share to those folks that are listening? And ladies and gentlemen, we'll come back in a moment. We'll talk to the entrepreneurs that are out there as well.
So it's important for us to understand that psychologists teach that a hazardous attitude, is not just how we emote, it's an actual behavioral response. Okay? It's not just a feeling, it's a proclivity to respond to a given situation. What kind of situation? It's when the ideal turns into an ordeal. Okay, so the ideal is when everything goes as planned. The ordeal is when what could go wrong does go wrong. And so, entrepreneurs, leaders, when you are examining and paying attention to your folks during ideal situations, that's not the time when hazardous attitudes come out. It's when the ordeal happens. And so, what you've got to begin to do is give them actionable strategies, actionable frameworks whereby they can make quick decisions with a great deal of precision, okay? The right way. And so, many of us are in fast paced industries that cause us to have to think on our feet. Well, when the ideal turns into an ordeal, is when the hazardous attitudes can surface. So this is a part of what I enjoy doing. I do it for companies, and I do it on the executive level with the executive coaching as well.
I love it. And do the same principles apply if you're speaking to the entrepreneur that's out there and they're thinking, okay, these leaders folks aren't directly responsible to me, but I do work with in collaboration groups and cohort groups, and they partner with other folks. Are these same principles applicable as well for the everyday entrepreneur or even the parent that's watching right now?
Yeah. The answer is no. It goes double for entrepreneurs.
Woo, double. Why? Now,
Double.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Don't worry. I'm going to ask them why the entrepreneurs. I thought it might be a little easier. Why is it double for entrepreneurs? We're all listening.
Because in larger corporations, there are more fail safes, right? Publicly traded companies. But for those of us who are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, we did not get to where we are by playing it safe. We are risk takers. The fact that you decided to leave a six-figure job for a lot of folks and launch out on your own, that was risky. However, risk, or shall I say, taking unnecessary risks and skill sometimes make terrible roommates, because what ends up happening is we think we were skillful when we were really lucky. Okay? Here, let me explain the difference, right? We can't do anything without taking risks. Nothing. You can't. Even if you put your money in a savings account or bury it in the backyard, that's risky. There's a risk. If you get in your car and drive to the supermarket, that was a risk that you took. For me to fly an airplane, I'm going to line up with the runway, put the power all the way forward, and we're going to go 140 miles an hour down the runway and leave the ground. That's risky. So don't hear me say that it's about not taking risks. But the problem is with entrepreneurs, some of us have literally built our company on our ability to stomach risks. And so what happens when Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jumps over the candlestick, and one day that light goes out because you bet too much on one particular deal. I was talking with an entrepreneur who lost $38 million on one real estate deal, Shay. You know why? Because he chose to leverage 90% of his liquidity on one deal. That's a major no-no. And you've got intelligent people in your audience. We all know if we were to answer this on a test, should you leverage 90% of your liquidity on one deal? Everyone would get that right. We would all say no. But some of us do it. Why do we do that? That's the hazardous attitude of invulnerability.
I love the whole concept. When I saw it online and I saw the book, I was just floored. It makes sense and sense. It makes sense and sense. You know,
that's
we're
good.
going to, yeah, it's right. It's spot on. And I think it's a good segue because folks may be listening, and we have a segment here called Today is My January 1st. They might be saying, whoa, Shay, I like Ricky Brown. No relationship to Shay Brown, but he's a cool guy. And they might be thinking, you know what? His life is just perfect. I love this guy. He's in ministry. The guy runs off and gets married. He has a beautiful daughter. He gets to travel, was an airline pilot, served in the country. And now he's doing what he loves to do. We have a segment. Maybe he's had a setback. We're going to figure this out in a moment. But we have a segment called Today is My January 1st. For those folks that tune in every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know what we're about to do. In fact, you can go ahead and say those magical words. Today is my January 1st. And for all the new folks who are tuning in for the very first time, today is my January 1st is our personal mantra at the show. So welcome to the show. It represents a fresh start. It represents a do-over. It means our past, no matter how dark and gloomy that past is, or how bright and sunny that past is, the past really no longer equals the future. So the question really for Ricky on the other side is really twofold. Number one, when you hear those words, today is my January 1st, what do you hear? But more importantly, was there ever a time you had a setback and there was a challenge, and how did you bounce back from it?
Yeah. When I hear the words, today is my January 1st, meaning that, hey, I can begin again. I can begin anew today. I don't have to wait until the calendar tells me it's January 1st. It could be January 1st in my own heart and mind. And I think that's so cool to have a segment like that. For me, that pandemic, man, that was hard. I feel like we got told to go to the corner for timeout, and they didn't tell us for how long. So we were in Chicago at the time, and it was a lot more strict than a lot of other states and cities. And so that was the time where the hazardous attitude of resignation really began to creep in. And so, yeah, that was the hardest time that I would say that I dealt with one of the hazardous attitudes.
Thanks for sharing, man. Thanks for being so authentic. I love what you do. One of the questions I like to ask when we have time, we have a few minutes now, is what's one of the best pieces of advice that you've ever been given? And I'll frame it for the audience so they're kind of clear. You've read more books than you can probably remember these days. You've written books, you teach. I don't know if I count the number of hours of videos I watch now with trainings. It's more than 10,000. I don't know who put down 10,000. That was a million years ago. So it's kind of unfair. But if you had to step back and say, wow, Shay, here's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given that you want to share with the audience, what is it and why is it so important?
Yeah, I would say that when you examine a problem that you have, you need to look at that problem and ask yourself the question, do I want this to grow? Okay. Examine your problem and ask yourself the question, do I want this to grow? And if the answer is no, deal with it now. Okay. So when you look at revenue slipping in your business due to marketing or ads not converting, or the team member that just doesn't seem to be on the same page and the same agenda, or maybe a business partner that you've been considering maybe buying out or letting them buy you out, whatever it is, when you have a problem, you need to examine that problem and ask yourself, do I want this to grow? And if the answer is no, deal with it now. Some of the best advice I've ever been given.
Deal with it now. I love it. As we come down the home stretch, curious, what do you do for fun these days, man? When you're not out saving the world, speaking on stages, dealing with corporations and companies, and doing what you do in the spiritual side of the world, what do you do for fun these days, man, just to kick back and relax?
Yeah, two things. I have a 17 months. She's 17 months old today. So today is her 17th month anniversary.
Happy birthday. That's kind of cool.
Things that people make up for babies. But man, this little girl is full of life. So I'm just enjoying being a brand new dad, playing with my baby, taking her to the park, putting her in the swing. Says she loves getting on a swing already. And so just having fun with her. Then other than that, iron sharpens iron. So I enjoy, getting with the fellas around a fire pit, talking shop, getting with people who are much smarter than I am and listening to what they're doing and why they're doing it, that kind of thing. So right now, that's where I'm at. That's the stage of life that I'm in.
Enjoy that time, man. Very special time that you get. You know, they grow up pretty fast, by the way. So enjoy every moment of every minute of every day that you can. And they're a lot less expensive when they're younger. I'm joking with you. Wait till they want their car. That's a topic for another time. In all seriousness, as we come down the home stretch, really a two-part question. Number one, what type of clients are you looking to work with these days? That'd be interesting. If you're taking on any clients, I don't know if your firm has time or not, but we'd like to know. And number two, how can folks best connect with you over and beyond today? Get the book. Maybe want to bring you in, coach them, speak to them. You're doing a lot of different things. So go ahead and share with folks, how they can connect with you as well.
Yeah, so I work with companies that want to avoid unnecessary loss. So if you know the sting of revenue slipping, attrition being high, you've lost some of your best and brightest talent, you know that there is a high turnover, revolving rate, it could be the company culture, right? And so what I do is I speak and I develop a framework directly related to improving the culture. How do we do that? By increasing the level of self-awareness in the leadership. And so executive leaders, business leaders, mid-level managers are those that I enjoy working with and speaking with. So entrepreneurs, human resources, they seem to jump all over this. You can reach me at rb@rickybrown.org. That's my real email address, rb@rickybrown.org, or go to rickybrown.org, RICKYBROWN.org. Instagram is all things Ricky B.
Well, let me say thank you so much for being on the Happy Entrepreneur Show, man. I know you can always make more money, but you can't make more time. So you're giving us the most precious resource you have right now, which is time, and time away from your 17-month-old. So thanks so much for being here, man. We can't wait to have you back again.
Thank you, Shay. It's been an honor.
And thank you to viewers. Thank you for tuning in, by the way, because without you, well, we don't have a show. So we appreciate you being here, allowing us to stream on your smart device or on your phone, or just being connected to us. And I never get tired of reminding you, every night at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, no matter what's going on in your life, whether you've been hit with the punch that you never saw coming, or you're on the rise, like things are going so well, you're going to that next level. Here's what I believe. I believe today is truly your January 1st. And because of just that one reason alone, I believe your best is still yet to come. Your best is yet to come. Your best is yet to come. With that being said, my name is Shay Brown. It hasn't changed. The Happy Entrepreneur. We out. Thanks a lot, Ricky Brown. Talk to you soon, everybody. Peace.